Hey, what's going on, everyone? How you doing? Sorry I've been gone for so long, but I've been moving house and I've been doing a lot of renovations, and I'm about 90% done, and I finally have time to start filming again, which I'm actually pretty excited about, especially with this channel, because I really like the direction this channel is going in, and I just like the reception and things. I'm just very optimistic. Now let's talk about Suicide Silence, because are they having a redemption arc? And you know, like, I don't think anybody is necessarily surprised that Suicide Silence would drop some heavy shit after that interesting experiment they did in 2017. I'm sure most of you know what I'm talking about, but for the very small few of you that don't know, in 2017, Suicide Silence, you know, dropped a track called Doris. And because of this, there were memes held by a lot of people, including myself, on my second channel that's now called Black Chad. I actually have a video that's up there of me kind of tearing it to pieces, but I would say the biggest one was obviously by Jared Dines. Almost nobody was feeling that shit. It was like unanimously everyone was like, what the hell is this? Y'all remember this? And then all of a sudden you're hearing this. Interesting little side story. I went to WonderCon that same year, and I went to the Nuclear Blast booth, and I was actually just going there to buy a nail shirt. I was like, oh, this is dope. And the guy that was working behind the booth, he's like, he recognized me. And so of course I thought he recognized me from my main channel, some black guy. But he recognized me from shitting on Suicide Silence, which was under Nuclear Blast. So he thought it was hilarious, and I was just like, well, you know, hope you don't get fired. So fast forward, the self-titled album dropped, and pretty much everyone disliked that. It wasn't received well because it just didn't seem like Suicide Silence. Like, maybe if it was a side project, you know, the members of Suicide Silence try this thing, and then maybe people would have been like, okay, that's pretty cool, you know, but hey, can I have some Suicide Silence now? And then it would have been probably fine. Another thing, I heard that they recorded it live. It was like a session recordings. And so it didn't have any like extreme, really polished mixing and proper like production, which is also another criticism, and which is understandable, because that's what my punk band did in 2005, because we were 16 years old and we were fucking broke. It was like go into the studio, book 2 hours, and record the songs live, and then bounce. You know, that's how we did it. It's a little weird for them to do something like that. Now fast forward 2 years later, they dropped a track recently. I would have loved to record it right when it came out, but it was in the midst of me moving and everything. But they dropped a track called Love Me to Death, and hey, I gotta say, it sounds pretty damn good. You know, it obviously doesn't have that Mitch Lucker feel that, you know, like, that's over. We have to accept that. That era of them being traditionally deathcore is over, even though they do play some of the older tracks, obviously. But as far as them making new music, they became more of a band of, like, I would say, Lamb of God somewhat, like that type of metal, where they're just American metal. And when Eddie joined the band, like, when he did a decent job, I thought he was infinitely better in All Shall Perish, though, obviously, because his lyrics were much more intricate, and he seemed to like dumb himself down to be in Suicide Silence, and I thought that was kind of stupid. But let's dissect Love Me to Death. That sounds pretty good. It's not amazing, you know, it's not like groundbreaking or anything like that. It's hard to make groundbreaking stuff nowadays. A lot of stuff has been done, and then people pushing the envelope is going much more into the progressive, genty type stuff, more in that direction. And in this direction, it isn't as groundbreaking or as like breathtaking, or, you know what I'm saying? It's just like usually like, oh, that's heavy, and that's pretty much all you can really say about it. And you got to admit that Hermida has some fantastic vocals. Like his highs, he's got some decent lows. He's got a crazy amount of range. He can actually sing well, you know, barring, you know, the stuff that you heard on the self-titled Suicide Silence album. The silence, death is all I need. I was just like, oh, all right, he's doing some weird shit. They're experimenting, fair enough. But he did sing pretty well in All Shall Perish. So, I mean, and he's done some really interesting things. I'd advise you guys to go listen to Black Gold Rain, just to really get like a good feel of his different range, like the dynamics of Eddie's vocals. Like this dude, I understand why they put him in Suicide Silence. That's not bad at all. That is a pretty solid track. And I imagine a lot of people are happy to hear Suicide Silence go more in this direction again. Personally, I wish they would go more in the deathcore direction. I miss like that marriage of like breakdowns and death metal riffs, blast beats. I think that, you know, when people kind of, when metal gets really trendy, it gets unfortunate. It's like certain bands are great at doing certain things. Kind of like Despised Icon. I think they've always been good at doing pig squeals, and for a while everybody was doing squeals. Eddie was doing squeals in All Shall Perish back in the day. You know, mid-2000s, everybody was starting to do pig squeals, and then after a while it's like, oh, this is a fad. And then that's the way that deathcore was kind of treated as well, where it's like, oh, it was cool, and then we're doing other shit now. And there's a lot of people that broke out of it and did great stuff because they were just doing deathcore because it was the shit at the time. But then you had people like Suicide Silence where that was what they did very well. Loved it. Obviously, it's why they got so insanely huge. And so when things started to change, and this was when Mitch was still in the band, it just wasn't as good. I mean, you had some, you know, tracks that stood out a lot, like You Only Live Once and Fuck Everything, which I still think You Only Live Once is, it's a banger. As the kids say nowadays, that shit slaps. It really does. But I do miss just like the cleansing era. Like that's such, it's simplistic, but it's like damn near perfect as far as deathcore goes, in my opinion, of course. So I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of their album. I wonder if they're gonna like mix in some of the shit that they did with that weird self-titled project they did. You know, I don't really have a problem with them putting in a little bit of extra or something like that. You can do something like Whitechapel, which has changed quite a bit over the years, but it was gradual. You know, it wasn't like, say, if you went from, like, say, the Somatic Defilement and then went from their latest album, like those things were back to back. I think people would be like, what the fuck is this? But you saw they were changing, and then the changes that they were doing was bringing in more fans as well. And maybe that's what Suicide Silence was trying to do. They were like, we want to play with Korn, and we want to play with Deftones and shit like that. And it just kind of, it didn't go so well. But that's it, guys. Let me know what you think about this track. Let me know if you dig it. Let me know if you're excited about their upcoming album and whatever else. And if you guys have any other suggestions for tracks or albums I should review, please leave them in the comment section. I'd appreciate it. There's a lot of stuff always coming out, and I have a lot of catching up to do, but I'm excited to do that. So that's it. Take care, guys. I'll see you in the next one.